this is Narez, and I teach art here at Lakeside Elementary School in Coppell, Texas, and right here with you. In this lesson, you will learn how to create a water lily scene using chalk pastels. You will need paper, pencil, and chalk pastels. To get started, let's turn our paper this direction, horizontal. This is vertical. Horizontal is what we're going for today. We're going to begin by putting our largest water lily right here on the paper, and then we're going to put a little bit of a smaller one here that will look like it's a little further away to show perspective. So to draw your water lily, I like to show my students two different ways. One's a little easier and one's a little more detailed. So the easy way would be to start with a big happy smile. And to make this look more like a water lily, we'll draw a zigzag line across to the other side. That's the easiest way for the first step. The second step would be to add petals in the background like this. Let me flip this over and show you a little bit more detailed way. In the same position as before, we're going to start with half of that smile. And we're going to turn that into one petal, almost leaf or football shaped. Okay, and we're going to draw one next to it, and we'll start to look like we have bunny rabbit ears. And then we just continue doing that. Start a little here, make one here. Now we'll make one here, and you can just keep going. A couple smaller layers in the back. Now the third step for these flowers would be to draw the little details for the middle. Water lily flowers have pistils and stamens that grow inside of the center of the flower, and that's where the pollination occurs. So I usually draw two lines up with a circle on top. I'll have some over here perhaps. Let's draw the lily pad. We're going to make a curved line that goes around the bottom of the water lily, and we're going to stop. Now let's start about the same height over here and stop. And then we'll give this kind of like a mouth, like Pac-Man's mouth is what most of my students like to refer to. Little Pac-Man mouth, because that's the shape of the water lily pads. Okay? Now remember, we're showing perspective in this artwork. We're going to make it look like a 3D space, so we want to make something look closer and something look farther away. So when I draw my next flower, I will move up on the paper and I will draw the petals smaller. Okay, there's our bunny rabbit ears, and just keep building. Your petals do not need to look perfect. All flowers grow in different directions, and each petal has its imperfections, so just don't fret over it, just draw it and keep going. Maybe we'll put the mouth on this side this time. So I just drew a little beak, a little V opening, and I'll wrap that around. Voila. Next, I believe we shall have a line that shows where the water stops and the sky starts. So I think maybe here would be a good place for that to happen. And then in the sky, we're going to make our Japanese footbridge. So if you have lots of room up here, this would be the part that the person walked over. Then you would have a handle, a railing for them to hold on to. I'm about out of room for all of it to show up. And now I'm going to draw the wood that would hold those two together. Don't draw too many of these. It'll be too hard to color in between them if they're really close together. Okay, and anything left would be just minor details. You could have the sun setting here if you wanted. Another really fun thing to draw with water lilies, I think, are an interesting plant called cattail. They look like little corn dogs on a stick. You've probably seen them sometimes growing in ponds, but oftentimes like on the side of a road, in the ditch maybe. Okay, so they often have tall leaves that grow with them, and perhaps a ripple or so. Don't forget, if you ever need to pause, take your time. You can rewind, go back, work out any kinks you might have. And it looks like now we are ready for color. Today we're working with chalk pastels. Chalk pastels are very powdery, opposite of oil pastels, which are very creamy. These are chalky. They're super messy. So when we work with these, I'll show you some different ways you can try to keep it neat. One way is by starting at the top of your paper. If you were to start at the bottom, while you're working on the top, you're smearing the bottom with the rest of your arm. So it's always best to start at the top. And it's also a good idea to start in the background. So instead of doing the bridge first, I'm going to do the sky first. Okay. When I have a sunset, I typically start with a little yellow towards the horizon line. So that's what I'll do here. I want you to notice one thing that's really important. I am not coloring like you would with a crayon. I am just swiping. If you color like with a crayon, you're really going to end up with piles of chalk everywhere. It's going to be a huge mess. Things are going to start smearing, and you're going to have a big cleanup time. So just use little swipes. So after that, I would add, for my sunset, I would add orange. Next, I typically choose pink. In this box, I don't see much pink, but I will add maybe a little red. And then at the top, we'll have some purple. I also do not see purple in this box. So I'm working with what I have. You should do the same at home. You may not always have the same exact supplies that I have, but work with what you have. Notice I did not color it in with lots and lots of color. I just made a few marks and swipes here and there. I'm going to take one finger, not lots of fingers, one finger, and I'm going to blend in some of these colors together a little bit. I'm only blending a little bit. If I were to continue blending continually over and over on the same surface, you're going to end up creating one color instead of this sunset design that we were going for. So you're only blending them slightly. No over blending. That is looking great. Love that. Every once in a while you might need to tap some of the chalk away like this. Next up will be the bridge. So for this bridge, I am going to use the corner of the stick of chalk to try to outline the pencil marks that I drew before. I'm going to add a second color to this bridge. To blend all those together, I'm going to use this tan. See what we get. I'm not sure that's my favorite choice. So perhaps I'll add a little more brown. What we don't want to do though is lose our outlines. The outlines kind of help everything pop so it's not too blended into the background. So I'm adding a little bit more of my outlines. Now, that looks nice. Okay, for the water, I'm going to choose my two blues this time. And when I'm in this deeper end of the water, I'm going to use the darker blue. And I'll use the lighter blue closer to the bottom of the paper. So remember, I'm just doing this like I would the sky. I'm just swiping a little area of color here and there. Maybe a little extra in the deep end. Now let's use this lighter blue as well. When you blend two chalks together, it just looks so beautiful. So don't just do one. Why do one when you can do more than one? Okay, now I'm going to use my finger and do a little blending just to soften it up a little bit. If I blend too much, I'll only have one blue. I still want to have two blues. So gentle, light blend. There we go. That's looking nice. I typically choose a pink color, but I think today I'm going to stick with this red. Perhaps I can add a little white to it to make it pink. And just like we did the bridge, when it's an object, we're going to be outlining the object first, then adding a little bit of color and blending. Okay, let's do a little blending. Move those colors around a little bit, soften it up. You don't want to lose your outlines though. If you lose your outlines, I usually have my students go back and outline it again. I think I just lost one. Kind of right here, you don't see much outline. This one I kind of did a little better job keeping the outline. So over here I'm just going to add a little bit more. It defines them. It makes you see each petal instead of a big blob. That looks pretty nice, I think. Let's move on. We'll use the corner of this yellow to add the pistils and the stamens. How about those little lily pads? A little color. And a little blending. Don't lose those outlines. Okay, let's finish off with our cattails. Maybe this little water detail here. You could even have water lines. All right, you can even sign your work. Hope you enjoyed it. I had a great time. We'll see you next time.